It's that time of year when we're planting or planning to plant or very close to planting, and we want to maximize every available space that we have.
Right. That's definitely important. That's why we're going to maximize.
So
you can start with being creative with containers. So maybe you have some planters around your front yard. You can always grow some vegetables in those, or herbs or something. Or you can just put containers in spots that you think that you want to grow some vegetables.
Containers can be anything. They can be a bucket with holes in the bottom of it. They can be more eye-pleasing. There are different vases and vases in which you can grow in. You can get a Root Maker grow bag or raised bed. They have that white finish, that heat-coated the finish that reduces the amount of heat going into the roots. From Root Maker, coupon code radio21, and you can knock 15% off your entire order by doing such. And in many other ways in which you can be creative, such as foodscaping, putting vegetables or edibles in amongst your flowers around your home.
Right. So actually our guest later is going to talk a little bit about edible landscaping, but yeah, you can definitely get creative. You can grow herbs. You can grow, if maybe you have where you can't grow on the side of your house or the front yard or something, you can kind of sneak stuff in like root vegetables. People aren't going to see the vegetables coming out of the top of the soil, so you could put some root crops in, and even...
Well, if you're in an area where you can't grow vegetables in the front yard, Swiss chard, big leafy green, kale, big leafy green, ornamental kale, edible. Just because it's ornamental doesn't mean it can't be eaten. It's very edible. And there's other tricks along the way there. For many people in urban settings, you have to, you only have so much horizontal, so you got to go vertical.
Right. So one thing you can do is you can definitely trellis anything that you can. So vine crops.
What kind of trellis can you use?
You can use whatever you got.
That's right.
So whether it be 2 posts with some twine around it, wrapped around, or you buy yourself a fancy trellis, or you find something free on the side of the road and stick 2 posts so that it stabilizes. You can use anything.
For us, it doesn't have to be eye-pleasing. It has to be functional, because by the mid to end portion of the season, it should be completely consumed by whatever vegetation that you're using it to grow up. Cucumbers, beans, whatever the case.
Especially pole beans, they tend to really take over those trellises.
Right, and pole beans can grow anywhere from 8 to 18, 20 feet, because we've had them go up and then come back down and the whole thing. So anything whatsoever. Now, speaking of growing vertical, we have a front yard garden at our residence, and we have a fence that divides that from a 4-foot I don't know what you want to call it. There's a sidewalk 4 feet below the property. There's a retaining wall, and then there's a fence. Well, we can utilize, and we do utilize that fence, and that provides us with about 150 more square feet of vertical growing. That's where we utilize our pole beans and our cucumbers on that fence.
I think it's like an erosion wall.
Okay, that would be a better, more classy term.
Right. So then, you can use the fence.
But now if you're in a residential area and you just have those normal chain link fence things between you and the neighbors, you might want to, talk to your neighbor, assuming that you guys like each other, and, let it ask if it's okay to do this, or can we, whatever goes on your side, you can pick, et cetera, that you just don't go digging underneath the fence and stuff's growing up, because people don't like that.
No, typically not. So
square foot gardening.
Yeah, definitely. Square foot gardening is a great method because it's going to give you the most bang for your buck, and it's just a method of laying out your garden most efficiently. So you go by square foot or by grid, essentially. So it's the concept that like 1 square foot or 1 tomato for a square foot, 9 beets, 16 radishes. And it goes on, and there's a whole book on it, but you can find a lot of information online.
And this does not have to only be utilized in a raised bed. This can be done on the ground. This can be done in containers, raised beds. It can be utilized in any type of method that you're growing. 4 by 4 foot raised bed or ground, that's 16 square feet. You can have 16 different little gardens in that big garden. 9 bean plants beet plants, 16 radishes, 16 carrots, a tomato plant, et cetera, and on and on. And then whenever the radishes get done, you pull those 16 out and you put 9 bean plants in or whatever's going to go in behind it. You revitalize the soil.
Yeah, or a tomato or whatever. And then that's kind of the same concept as, well, not quite the same as succession planting. That's more of like reusing your space for different crops or seasonal growing.
Succession planting, you plant one row of corn of beans this week, you wait a week, you plant another row, so they're coming in throughout the progression of the season. If you don't want everything to come in at once, so you can preserve it. Like if you're going to can, you wouldn't want to necessarily do that totally. You would want to do a full bed, and then wait a week and do another full bed, so you would have that succession planting and that harvest over the course of the summer that you can have volume enough to can or preserve.
Yeah, we do that with cilantro in our windowsill. That's another thing is you can grow a lot if you have a nice windowsill area that gets good light, like a south-facing window, you can grow things in that window. And
people use the Happy Leaf LED grow light and grow year-round because they don't have the availability or access to that outside free ambient light, so they grow under grow lights.
So intercropping is a good one, and we did this recently with our onions and radishes, leeks, and shallots.
The concept is you plant a fast-growing crop in amongst slow-growing crops. So what we utilized was we planted a row of onions. We planted 2 rows of onions, and between those 2 rows, we put a row of radishes in. Onions take, from the starts that we've grown ourselves, 90 to 100 days to bulb and be ready to harvest. Radishes take 30 days. So by the time those radishes are ready to harvest in a month, it's not going to hurt or impede the growth of those onions or leeks or whatever we're growing in between, but we can utilize more space and get another crop out of that area. And this can be done in many different applications. We're just utilizing the onions between the onions in order to put our point across clearly.
Right. So yeah, you can think about that, the intercropping to help.
Let's talk about watering.
Yeah, watering. So we use irrigation in our raised beds.
From dripworks.com.
And you might think, what does watering have to do with maximizing your garden space?
And we also use from Waterhoop.
Yeah.
We use Waterhoop as well. What does watering have to do with maximizing your space, Holly?
Well, if you think about it, if you're not watering your plants properly, they're going to possibly die. But if anything, they might not be as fruitful or provide you as much bounty as they could. So something like irrigation, bringing in irrigation, will help keep those plants properly watered, and that will help them stay nice and ready throughout the season, and you're going to get your best crop.
And we got our irrigation system again from dripworks.com. We've got it on a timer, a digital timer, that it's set to run 20 minutes at a time, 3 times a day, 8 a.m., noon, and 4 p.m. for 20 minutes. And that keeps the soil moist, not soggy, and it allows the plants to not be stressed. Because when you don't water your plants and you rely on nature to do that, there's times where the plants are only in survival mode and they could care less that they're producing tomatoes or eggplants or peppers. They're just trying to survive, and then they get stressed and they put on a small amount of fruit in order to carry on the traits, and they shut down, they die because they don't have the water that's needed.
Right.
It's an investment that's well worth the small price to pay for a system to where you don't know how to keep up with the harvesting because the plants are so happy and healthy that they continue to produce for you.
Right. And then if you don't have a large garden, maybe you have some containers, there's a lot of options for you as well out there to keep those containers nice and watered. And even if you don't, it's just good to get yourself on a schedule. Obviously, our irrigation has a schedule that you can get yourself on a schedule for watering so that you are making sure you're consistent. And
lessen the amount of water you have to do, mulch can be utilized to increase your the health and the productivity of your plants, because you're holding moisture in, you're suppressing the weeds because they're not being able to grow because you got mulch on them, and everybody's more happier. You saving water, the plants are watered with the moisture, they're not losing it, they're not stressed, everybody is happier, and happy, healthy plants are more capable of defending off of insect and pest damage or infestation than a weak, stressed, and dehydrated plant.
Definitely. And then also just making sure you're controlling the pests. So whether that be some sort of caterpillar that's eating your plants or aphids, just make sure you're looking for that because it's going to help maximize your garden if you are controlling those pests right away.
Well, something else you can control is how you produce or take up and produce the meat that you consume, whether you're looking for seasonings and spices or whether you are actually processing big game, little game, the animals that you're growing on your homestead or farm. Walton's Incorporated has everything but the meat that can get you where you need to be.
Yeah, the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show is brought to you today by our sponsor, Walton's Inc. We know you care about your food. You care about canning and preserving your fruits and vegetables. But with the meat at waltonsinc.com, you can get all the equipment, seasoning, and supplies to make sausage, jerky, and any other meat product your way to your standards. You can make meat sticks, all sorts of great things. You can get more information also at meatgistics.com to help you make the best finished product. Walton's has a full line of their own meat grinders, mixers, sausage stuffers to help you go from animal to edible. Walton's, everything but the meat. That's waltonsinc.com.
And if you're not a processor of animals, but you want good seasonings, Walton's has a vast variety of seasonings in which you can apply to the meat in which you're grilling this summer or in the house. Hey there, gardeners. Thanks for checking out this segment of the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show. If you like what you've seen, you can search through the channel and find full in-studio videos of the entire show. If you want to go another route, you can search for it on your favorite podcast platform by searching the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener radio show or the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show, and you can download it and take it with you. You can check out all past seasons at our website, thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com, under the radio tabs at the top of the page. We thank you for joining us. We hope you've learned and enjoyed the show, the segment, and we'll see you next time.